Well, another fantastic day of Test cricket in what's already been a fantastic series. Stumps on day 3 sees a reasonably, or should I say a very happy India, because they thought they would be at the wrong end of the first innings total after the way Moeen Ali bowled before and after tea. This is ESPN Cricket for Matchday's post-day show. We've got Ajit Agarkar, we've got Nip Compton, and we will look back at how, like England, India got out of jail towards the end. Runs from Cheteshwar Pujara is essentially the reason that there's a different team that takes a first innings lead in this fourth test at the Ageas Bowl. But for 3 overs at the top and 4 overs at the tail, Pujara has batted the entire day. 6 hours nearly for India's number 3, a 15th test match 100 for India's number 3, 132 not out. Moeen Ali with familiar figures at Southampton against India, 5 for 63, as at one point we thought India would fall well short of a first innings lead. England surviving, a few tricky overs, 6 without loss, 21 the deficit, test match wonderfully poised. Ajit Agarkar, were you expecting to see that once Moeen Ali took 4 for 14 at one stage, leaving India well short of England's first innings score?
Yeah, not a 27-run lead at that point. Yeah. You know, I mean, last two wickets added well in excess of 80 runs. I think England probably didn't show enough desperation, or maybe just expected the last 2 wickets to fall. And credit to Ishant Sharma and Bumrah later on just to hang around. Ishant getting a few runs as well with Pujara, but what an incredible performance for Pujara. You know, just not just runs but big runs. 132 in a game where the team is chasing 246 that England set in the first innings. It is a special knock, and hopefully, people keep that in mind when they talk about Pujara not suiting certain roles and certain circumstances for this team.
So there's no doubt now on Pujara, but we'll have a longer chat on him. But just the way the game has ended, Nick, at the end of day 1, you might have had that feeling in the Indian camp, oh, we let England off. Today the feeling very different. 78 runs, like Ajit points out, between the last 2 wickets, courtesy Pujara. That really must have given England a bit of a punch in the gut.
Yeah, I think so. I agree with Ajit. Just maybe switched off slightly. Did they bowl the spin for a little bit too long? And did they let the field relax a little bit too early? I think Pujara is somebody who wasn't really going to hurt England, and perhaps they put the fielders out. He's not a Kohli or someone like that who you have to spread the field to. I think they could have kept the pressure on for longer and just bowled the way they had, because they were taking wickets quite quickly. So, yeah, perhaps a little bit of a missed opportunity, and India will probably feel a bit better having, wanted to get a lead at the beginning of the day and probably given that away as well. So they'll feel a little bit better. Things still very much in the even here, but I would also say that they've got to bat last, and that wicket just looks like it's gripping a little bit. I thought the way Pujara batted was absolutely class, and I just want to make one word on that. A lot of people talked about him not scoring that many runs for Yorkshire, but sometimes as a batsman, the hard work and the results only come later, and no one must underestimate the amount of work that he put in at Yorkshire in getting himself prepared for this moment. And I think when you see someone play like that, it's great to watch. Qualities of and the hours that he spent today was absolutely magnificent. But I think England have a real chance here to get a lead and put some pressure on India.
The leash is so short for a one-format player, especially if he looks like Cheteshwar Pujara. We've already spoken of how we're probably a bit aggrieved for Murli Vijay, but hundreds are big in Indian cricket, at least in the memory of Indian cricket selectors. I remember Virender Sehwag once saying, don't worry about these 70s and good 80s, and he got a good 70, did Pujara, but you get 100, it just keeps things, good for your health in Indian cricket.
Yeah, and 100 in 2 days where batting's been so difficult for every batsman that's gone out. There's today we saw grip for an offie. The ball swung around, nipped around, and guys have found scoring quite hard to come by. And then to add to that, the pressure of the amount of wickets that fell at the opposite end, with Pandya, Ashwin, those guys getting out or a punt. Then to sort of switch gears and still bat around with Ishant and Bumrah, the two guys. You've got to give them credit as well. Just smart enough, and then switch gears towards the end, which makes his innings even more special. Which you kind of people don't expect Pujara to do it.
And that's the point, that they got runs, like Ajit pointed out. They got runs in spite of spending time at the crease. 10 overs between Ishant and Pujara, nearly 14 between Bumrah and Pujara, and they scored at a healthy run rate. He managed to farm a reasonable amount of strike. But maybe there's a chat to be had on batting order for the 9, 10s and 11s, that the case for Mohammad Shami.
Yeah, I mean, I felt in the last test, Shami can hit the ball, but maybe that there were, in both the tests, there were occasions where you needed somebody to hang around with, say, a Virat Kohli or a Hardik Pandya or Pujara today. So maybe Ishant Sharma at the moment, you batting really smartly, if you like, and has shown reasonable talent to hang around. Tomorrow, if you need quick runs, maybe Shami is the guy to go to. But I think Ishant Sharma should bat ahead of Shami. Not because he's gotten out today, but in general, the role he would play with a batter who's at the other end.
Ishant Sharma claimed to have a better county stint than Pujara when he was here. There was a little bit of social media humor going on that. But let's talk seriously on the game itself. Nick, this game seems to be so even and tight, little things. Is a 27-run lead decisive, or do you think it's neutralized? It doesn't matter given how this game is, how close this game is.
It's a tough one to call. I would almost say that England probably have the better chance at the moment, just looking at the wicket, the way that it potentially won't be great batting last. And I think that's the thing that England need to really look at. Can they capitalise on the fact that India didn't quite take advantage of getting England out for such a low score? India potentially had the opportunity today to go quite a long way past England, but I thought England obviously toiled well. They kept the run rate down, and despite a Pujara magnificent 100, they've done a pretty good job today. So I think England going into tonight will be quite confident in many ways. It's a big day tomorrow. Can Cook and Keaton Jennings turn the tide a little bit? Can they get some runs for themselves, get them back up to par with India, and then push on and get a score? Anything in excess of 150 to 160, I think it's going to be hard work for India. They're under pressure. I think we've got a cracking test match on our hands.
Ajit?
Yeah, I mean, I expect England to bat well tomorrow.
Yeah,
I think the wicket seems to have lost a little bit of sting out of it. I mean, the spin might come into play. The one thing that England have as an advantage is that Ashwin does bowl. They have a lot of left-handers where the actual rough is outside their leg stump. Maybe he could have tried a couple of balls tonight to see if something happens from over the stumps. I know it takes the LBW out of the equation, but worth a go because that's where all the rough is.
You trust Ashwin to try everything tomorrow. So
I mean, Bumrah bowled that last over was a lot more sort of nippier than his first over. There'll still be a challenge, but I think the pitch seems to have lost a little bit of sting. If England can get their heads down, I think they'll need a bit more than I think 250 plus would be a handy score to make India chase. But the pitch is still good to bat on.
India's pacers have gotten or looked more threatening than England's. So would you think that they'd still get more out of this in the third innings?
I think the Indian quicks are a little bit quicker than England's, and maybe
Makes
that's
a
why
difference
they've seems that way. I mean, every time Broad got it to go a little bit, he looked a lot more effective. Stokes, you could see the difference when he bowled that spell, how much more difficult he was to face. So maybe those extra few kilometers do help when the batsmen have to adjust. But if the pitch in general has started to slow down, they'll need a little bit of movement as well and not just speed, which India would be hoping that it swings around at least a little bit tomorrow.
Just going back a little in the day, Nick, but little things that you want going for you as captain when the chips are down for Joe Root. Ben Stokes, had he been able to bowl a little more, or had he been at his full fitness, that little 7-over spell that he saw when he got Ajinkya Rahane his wicket, would have been great to have Ben Stokes just bowl a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been the talisman for England. You can see even on one leg how keen England are to get him into the team. And even though he's been struggling, he just adds so much. His character, his personality, and the fact that his skills, even on one leg, were exemplary. I mean, the amount that he was swinging the ball in was incredible. So, he's just a great man to have in there. Gives the team a boost. And I think not having him at the end, particularly to tail-enders, he bowls well at tail-enders, was obviously a big loss. But I think, it's a tough one to get right. I think Pujara played it perfectly. I think they held their nerve. And I think the tail-enders, showed some character there. And I think, this impact of Kohli, his competitive nature, the fact that he wants to come to England and really wants to compete here, I think starting to thread through the team a little bit. These guys are starting to believe more, starting to believe they can play in these conditions. And I think it bodes well for the Test series because, we want to see opposition players and teams playing well in away from home conditions.
Finally, a worthy mention must be given to Moeen Ali. We thought we'd speak a lot more of him when India were 8 for 190, but the narrative changed with Pujara and the tail. But back into the side, reasonable performance with the bat and 5 wickets when one bowler was down with the ball.
Yeah, and 5 wickets at a time when England really needed them. I mean, when you're defending 246 in first innings, the only way you can get back in the game is to try and pick up wickets. I mean, Virat Kohli and Pujara had that big partnership of 92. At that point, India looked like they'd have a decentish lead. So the one way to stop them was to get wickets. And when your spinner does it, look, he's going to be handy, more than handy in the second innings as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's why England need a target to let him bowl a little bit freely, because that rough is only going to get worse.
Who would sleep better tonight, Nick Compton? India, England? I hope you sleep better tonight. You've had a bit of a headache overnight, but who would sleep better tonight?
I think Keaton Jennings will sleep quite well. He's got off a pair, and he goes in tomorrow with a chance to keep his career. So I think England are in a good position. I think both teams will be hoping to have a good start tomorrow morning.
You say that evenly poised then at the end of day 2?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, 27 runs. If England lose couple before those 27 are wiped out, or they lose too early, wouldn't have mattered either way. I mean, it may make a difference, may not.
But that India batted time, 25 overs or so. Imagine getting bowled out at 8 for 198, giving England 20-30 overs. It could easily have been 70,
yeah, and a little bit of a lead as well, where then India are a little bit worried and a bit more desperate to pick wickets. Here, India can maybe be a bit more patient. It's evenly poised. I think I still feel England still have good conditions to bat on tomorrow. If they can maybe put an innings together, which they haven't yet in this series.
Were you okay with Ashwin taking the new ball very quickly?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I said, I wish he had tried a couple of balls over the stumps to the left-hander. Who knows, that rough might have come into play.
Okay, well, maybe Ishant Sharma will finally feature tomorrow, and there's Jasprit Bumrah too. Many thanks, Ajit Agarkar. We've got a fascinating test match on our hands, and thank you to Nick Compton as well, joining us from our London studios. It's been a day that we'll remember for a while, because like day 1, we've seen India fight back against England, courtesy Cheteshwar Pujara's 15th Test match 100, ably supported by Jasprit Bumrah, ably supported by Ishant Sharma as well. Make sure you download the ESPN Cricinfo mobile app if you're watching in the Indian subcontinent. Live clips and highlights through this fascinating Test match as England trail now by 21 runs. Don't forget, they bat deep, they've still got lots of left-handers, there's a rough, there's all of that. So make sure you don't miss any of it. Do join us for our pre-match show on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday at the start of day 3.